Nikon sensors are made by Sony.
That's a talking point that I bet you've heard because I've heard it a billion times. First of all, stop acting like it's a bad thing. You think Sony makes bad sensors all of a sudden? Right. They don't. At the end of the day, Nikon is designing their sensors and Sony has been manufacturing them, and this isn't just the case for Nikon mirrorless sensors. The absolutely revered Nikon D850 as well was a Sony sensor. You may not know this, but making sensors is no easy task. Not necessarily from a manufacturing standpoint, it's robots and stuff, I'm sure, but from a facility standpoint. Most sensor manufacturers aim for ISO 5 or better clean rooms. If you don't know how clean that is, that's literally what an operating room needs to be at a minimum. So its cleanliness must be somewhere greater than your organs are probably fine being exposed, but not as clean as we are playing with liquid oxygen. That means your air needs to be different. Your ventilation needs to be different, even so far as the air pressure must maintain a positive pressure to adjacent areas, as is the case in operating rooms. It's not just something you can throw up over a summer like a food truck or a gym. It's expensive to build this kind of facility, especially when there are already established companies with these facilities in place more than willing to take Nikon's sensor designs and money and manufacture them to Nikon's quality standard. I think the biggest problem, as usual, is that everyone who is complaining, they aren't business people, they are consumers. You've never had to weigh options like this, and I promise you don't know better than Nikon's leadership. I understand that there is an idea that Nikon not making its own sensors could open them up to Sony gatekeeping technology, which, like reserving their best practices for their own equipment. As I was researching this, I found something that you might want to keep in mind. Recent revenues for Sony's camera division was 44.3 billion yen. Sony Semiconductor recent revenue was 193.5 billion yen. Do you really think they need to gatekeep? No, I don't think they do. Also, you're forgetting that Nikon isn't just buying Sony things off of some shelf somewhere in some warehouse. Nikon has a team dedicated to designing and developing their own sensors. They send that to a third party to build. The fear shouldn't be gatekeeping, but rather is the third party going to steal the design. And whenever we get back into that 193 some odd billion yen revenue for Sony Semiconductor, I don't think that stealing the technology is really high on the priority whenever they make 44 some odd billion yen on their own cameras with their own sensor designs. I think this worry is derived from really just a sense of pride. Nikon has manufactured sensors before. The D4 and D4S are Nikon manufactured sensors. The D3 and D3s as well. But if you look back, Nikon often uses Sony or Toshiba or Renesas or even their own manufactured sensors throughout history. So they actually do know how to make them, they just don't have a facility at this time that can, at least as far as I can find in my research. So I guess I ask you, does it actually matter if you're getting a good product that does what it needs to do? If Nikon thought it was a problem, they wouldn't do it. They would go back to making them because they know how. Again, we're not businessmen, so we don't know if Nikon maybe just decided it's cheaper and just as good to have someone else do it and then extend that cost savings to you. However, there may be a shift happening. As we all know by now, Nikon purchased RED. While everyone is talking about the future of Nikon cameras and how RED tech will be incorporated into Nikon and Nikon tech incorporated into RED, RED has its manufacturing figured out already. RED, like Nikon, designs and develops its own sensors and then has them manufactured by someone else, that someone else being Tower Semiconductors. Interestingly enough, there was a rumor back when that the Nikon Z9 sensor might have ended up being a Tower Jazz sensor. The Z9 sensor ended up being manufactured by Sony, but I wonder if little tidbits of rumors about the RED acquisition had slightly slipped that far back, and then it kind of telephone gamed its way out, that little tidbit there. Maybe. It's a fun thought, I think. Regardless, I can see a future where the existing partnership between RED and Tower Semiconductors finds its way into the standard for Nikon cameras. At that point, you don't have to worry about theft because Tower doesn't make cameras. But there will still be people out there worried about gatekeeping in some way, I'm sure. This argument won't die until Nikon starts making its own sensors. But again, do you like the product? If not, fine. If you do, go out and take pictures instead of watching me attempt to discredit your feelings. I still like you, I just think you're a little silly. I'm Z Wade, the Z Wade, and Z Wade Photo. Stay sharp, YouTube.